Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Athenaeum 79. I'm your host, Niksa, and today we have with us Dr. Thambanda Poonacha Vijay. Now, sir is a senior professor of history at Kannada University, Hampi, with over 3 decades of teaching and research experiences. He has served in several academic leadership roles, including acting vice-chancellor, dean of social sciences, registrar, and head of department of history, a recipient of the prestigious British Commonwealth Post-Doctoral Fellowship at the University of Oxford. His research focuses on historiography, subaltern studies, oral traditions, colonial and post-colonial history, and the history of Coorg and Karnataka. Sir has also authored 38 books and over 30 research articles and led several major research projects and curriculum initiatives in Karnataka. Welcome to the podcast, sir, and thank you so much for taking out your time to continue this curriculum and this history club that we are building. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you so much.
So we'll begin with our questions straightforward. So, how should historians balance oral traditions, written records, and archaeology when they present different versions of the past?
Oral traditions.
Oral traditions, written records, and archaeological evidence at the same time, when they present different versions of the
Okay,
past.
got the point. You see, first of all, I will go to the fundamentals. See, history is a new knowledge system derived in colonial period. Before that, India never had experienced that kind of thing at all. We had memories, we had folklores, we had oral traditions, but not oral history. Oral history, the word oral history has emerged very recently. First of all, I would like to distinguish those things. I would like to make it very clear. Written documents, either we are getting through literary sources, particularly from the archival documents. We always rely upon those documents because it has been recorded properly. But we must understand that it has been recorded properly through British agencies, to European agencies. Uh, Naturally, I don't know how many Indian scholars overcome from the prejudices those archival materials has inbuilt in its nature. That's one thing. Oral traditions means it is more or less it is a ritualistic thing. Ritual is different and history is different. Ritual, it has continuity for hundreds and hundreds of years. It was there before colonial writings. It was there during colonial period. It is there post-colonial period also and right now also. I will give some of the examples how we have to understand it through some of the examples. See, in Karnataka, we have Kumara Rama traditions. I think you are familiar with Vijayanagara history, Krishna Devaraya and all. For almost all history students are very familiar with Krishna Devaraya and his achievements and Vijayanagara and all. In my university, it is situated in Hampi only. But in Hampi proper, most of the natives don't be associated with Krishna Devaraya and Vijayanagara. They are being connected to Kumararama instead. Kumararama is a folk hero. He's a legend here. Actually, he defeated Delhi Sultanate, and he is known for his integrity. He is known for his valorism. He is known for his dedication. He is known for many things. He is still worshipped by many communities around here, and he is the part of history and tradition here. But whenever you go to history text, his description on Kumar Rama is highly limited. So this is why this is what a historian always face the problem while writing history. From where you are going to take these kind of accounts and you transmit to the historiography. Yeah, this is one point. So that what I would like to tell you is ritual is different, history is different. Because of our demand in history, we many times we often uh, derive such kind of historical traditions into our literary tradition.
Right, sir. And in fact, when how you talk about collecting that sort of information and then putting it in a more academic space, it becomes very difficult because these folk stories also have very superficial elements in it. Some miracles or some I would say some magical element to it, which is difficult for the scientific, at least the scientific study of history, which makes it unreliable in a common generalized sense for these historians who are using the Western model of Mark Bloch or people like these. So, so these historians, these colonial historians, they often dismissed oral traditions, obviously because of
No,
their.
it's not necessarily. Most of the documents they have gathered during colonial period has derived from memories only.
Okay.
Those memories only have been written in the colonial writings, and
Hmm.
most of the missionaries they have derived those materials, the folk
Hmm.
materials,
Right.
and they have printed in 19th century. The
Okay.
farm gossips, the farmer folk traditions, it has been transmitted into text. Once it
Hmm.
has been transmitted into text, it's called the history text.
Hmm.
How they gathered such kind of information during 18th and 19th century
Through interaction, through
through
going,
interaction,
yeah, through surveys,
through experiences, through
experiences.
experience. What kind of experience? Experiences means it is being connected to your memory.
Hmm.
How they have written about caste system, how they written about social reality, etc., etc. Everything they have drawn from the memories of their colleagues or their subordinates.
Right,
So I
sir.
will give a lot of examples regarding this. You see, those who
Hmm.
helped British got very good place in history. Those who, those who questioned the British authority, they are always in negative lines throughout the 19th and 20th century, even with the help of the so-called writing of history. How it is possible? Yeah, this is what I have found it. And moreover, you see, in recent period, in post-Marxist period, or what you call subaltern studies, subaltern historians, also have managed to gather oral traditions to co-op with the mainstream writings, because in mainstream history, as you know that, as you are aware of that, particularly the people of depressed communities, scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, they never had been placed properly in the writing of history. Particularly the peasant movements, the Dalit movements, women movements, those kind of things, uh, cannot be find it out in your archives. That is why Parth Chatterjee always says, through your sentiments, through your emotions, through your memories, you can reconstruct your history. That is also being connected to the oral traditions. How you are using, how effectively we are using, that is very
Hmm.
important,
Hmm.
because as you are aware of the fact that the first part of subaltern studies, it has been projected as the post-Marxist thing. Later, it has been uh, uh, identified with the cultural questions. Earlier, it was with the downtrodden. Now, everybody has subaltern thing. Those kind of things we can always find out in the discourse.
Right, sir. And that is very interesting because the kind of effort that it might have required in those times to interact with these people, because there's a language barrier and you have to use mediators at all times. You have to know someone who knows both the languages and communicate well. A similar problem which I would have faced had I not come from Rajasthan myself during my dissertation, but hopefully I did. So, in fact, my research, when it was on a folk goddess of Rajasthan, it becomes very difficult for you to connect to people and ask them questions because it's a daily living tradition. You cannot go about researching books or finding PDFs to analyze what she means. She means something to people in real life, and you have to be able to communicate to them to understand what is her definition or what is their interpretation of that goddess. So language there takes a huge has a huge importance. And then again, recently in Delhi University, I think in our batch, there was this course called social history, reconstructing history through social context, something that was introduced in our fourth year, which was also very interesting. And we read articles written by Romila Thapar and many others who talked about the Aryan invasion also. So now these are multiple stories. Okay, it was not an invasion; it was just a migration. But there are multiple narratives coming, and these are also oral memories. These are not and these are conversations which have been passed down to generations. So might not have a written record, but something that stays in the memory of these people. Even um, if you talk about partition or in the current times, even our great grandparents, my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, they talk about these instances. So these are incidents that we can only take out from their own memories and their own brains, these stories that they have heard or listened, and they have stored inside them over the years. So do you think, sir, this culture has kind of maintained its legacy over the period of time after the British left, or do you think there has been a decline? Or
No,
uh,
decline in understanding the things.
okay,
Actually, as I said before, it was there before British. It was there during British. It is there now itself. But common people enjoy history in different way, unlike us. We think that we have a systematic way of understanding. We need to give footnotes. We need to give scientific approaches while writing, etc., etc. But if you go to the field, it cannot be understood properly. Where we are getting problem, if you go to the common man, they are not interested. Their understanding of history is entirely different. It's more a psychological thing. Okay, it is it's a classroom thing, cannot be applied to the masses. But how masses think, how masses how they feel. You should get those kind of knowledge and interpret it in your writings. That's the thing you are expected to do, or I am expected to do it. Like you're saying that you are taking folklore tradition in Rajasthan. You're absolutely right. That is not the system. That is the tradition. History is a system of the knowledge. Folklore, it is not the system. Okay, so you have to cope these two things with your interpretations, with your proper interpretations.
and I think, sir, also in the process of studying history, that's what I've experienced, and kind of learning to, fit everything into the system. We also limit ourselves. I mean, as someone who's young and just starting, because we have to learn the rules and kind of stick to it for some time at least, so that we can break them. We do get limited in certain ways. We have to
Yes,
put
yes.
limitations so as to keep it authentic and to keep it thoroughly referenced and researched. But over the period of time, when we gradually grow as historians, as scholars, we can then start to kind of decode and dismantle that layer. And this was something which I had to do back and forth, because my research topic in itself was oral traditions. So I had to stick to the limits, but then kind of unravel and dismantle the system to figure out, okay, how can I put these elements into the larger frame?
It won't fit. It won't fit in the Rankian kind of understanding of history,
Yes, yes, yes,
or
definitely, sir.
the scientific understanding of history.
Hmm.
Even though we are trained in scientific
Hmm.
understanding of history, but you have to face the new challenges. You
Yeah.
just cannot just keep away all such kind of things.
Hmm.
thousands and thousands people, lakhs and lakhs of people are, are the part of this tradition, oral tradition.
Yes. Histories
And
of the people, sir. It's not ours. We.
of course, it's history of the people. Then
Hmm.
how you are going to neglect the history of the people here?
Hmm. That
That is
that is a.
the question we very often we are also facing. Because you triggered that point, that's why I'm talking like that.
Yes, yes, definitely, sir. I myself have now I
Yeah.
relate a lot when I talk to you as yourself a scholar of oral tradition. I feel what I was going through was very legitimate because other people, when they went for field research, Buddhist studies, and they did study on Sikh literature, it was very limited, and they could stick to that perspective that, like you say, Ranke's view of history and put it in this in a very use the scientific methods to derive to conclusions है ना? But in oral traditions we also cannot derive to conclusions a lot. We have to make it
Niharika saying, actually, we did not conclude.
hmm,
We just put forward the things as it is.
yes, we
Because
put the raw information out.
it is not our duty to give judgment or to give conclusion. We
Yes.
are just, put forward. See, these are all the things are there. How to understand this historical tradition.
Hmm.
This is how we have to, interact with history and its facts.
Right, sir. So, over the period of years that you have spent studying oral traditions, which is the one oral tradition which has perplexed you the most over the years, and which you still find that you were not able to interpret as much as you wanted to, or as you could have? It was the most difficult part, most difficult project of your study. Is there any?
See, I have studied in Western Ghats of Karnataka, where
Okay.
I have found a large number of tribal communities, and I just some of the somehow the language which they are speaking are not familiar with to me. I was trying to translate some of the folk traditions, but some of them I couldn't, and some of them have similarities with Old Testaments. So, you see, they are highly disconnected with the major part of civilized area. They say, "What's your origin of the community?" They say, we are born from the sun. The God on the day when he created sky, the another day he created land, another day he created forest. The next day we arrived. Like that. They tell their stories, and ultimately they say that how these people were victimized by the plantation communities. I have published those things in Kannada language, but unfortunately I couldn't translate, or I couldn't write in English. In near future I will write it also. So how can I understand it? Those kind of memories, it has been remained in forest itself. I have similar kind of stories, similar kind of narratives in those Western Ghats area. Still,
Hmm.
in the mainstream historical tradition, I am
Hmm.
working here. But still, I am trying to go with those kind of materials. If you say,
Hmm. Hmm.
I couldn't do it properly. I've been working for it.
Right, so it gets very difficult to kind of balance your information also, because then there is lots of raw information that can come from these people,
Yeah.
and different music, different literature, different sorts of languages, food, dresses, and dance forms. Everything sort of accumulates together to forming that social circle or that tribal area or that community that we talk about. And over the period of time, I think the more layers it develops, the more difficult it gets. And I think everyone would love to read your work, especially scholars like us who are studying oral tradition, if you would translate it in English as soon as possible.
One more thing, even Gramsci also faced the same thing.
Okay, sir.
Antonio Gramsci in
Anthony.
1920,
Yeah.
he has written about the Southern question, Southern, a note on Southern question that's related to the question of South Italian thing, the question of South Italian peasants. As you know, that he's uh,
He's a political theorist who
he,
gave the idea of hegemony.
he's
Um,
a he's a dissident of Marxism.
yeah,
Even though he was a Politburo member of Communist Party of Italy, he has
yeah.
some certain inbuilt questions.
Hmm.
He was he was the person who equated peasants with the proletariats.
Okay.
Earlier, in Marxism, proletariats only got importance. He
Hmm.
was telling that without the without the proper placement of peasants in the movement, you cannot
Hmm.
complete your revolution. So at the time, most of the people, particularly the Marxist only of the time, they were asking how the how the problems of the peasants
Hmm.
are equivalent with the proletariat.
Yeah.
Where is the document you have? Any document you have relating to problem of peasants? At the time, he was telling peasants never had documents, but they have memories.
Hmm.
Memories through sentiments they express,
Hmm.
for
Hmm.
which you have to go to oral tradition, he says. So our Indian scholars in 1980s, they have, you know, they have been inspired by Gramsci, and that is
Hmm.
that is why we got subaltern study series also, in where you are getting a large number of debates related to this. So
Right,
oral
sir.
tradition thing, it has started in the early decades of 20th century itself. And Africa,
Hmm.
for example, after emancipation, after Second World War, they
Hmm.
got African nations. They never had
Hmm.
history. The blacks never had history. They never had documentation. They never had archives. Through
Hmm.
memories only, they started writing history.
Hmm.
So oral tradition, the politics of oral tradition, not necessarily a new thing in India.
Hmm.
In worldwide, the experiment went on in effective form, and we have
Hmm.
imbibed some of the important thing from those experiences also.
Right, sir. Like you said, history in itself is a very recent creation, and I think the whole of world, if you talk about Native Americans also, Africans, Australians, the Aborigines,
Absolutely.
everyone.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, everyone was had stored their information in some sort of art or creativity or music or memories. And these oral traditions and somehow also relate to the kind of art they produced, because it is an expression of how they feel, their sentiments. So it's very important to look at those elements also. And if it was just for the sake of writing books, I think maybe, and just creating a narrative, maybe then history would have been set up long time back, but no one really wanted to, I would say, if it's the right thing to say, no one really wanted to colonize or something and create a narrative, because this one aspect of James Mill, which we were taught in the initial days of honors in history, is that he never came to India, and he wrote a whole volume on the history of India. And that is so strange, because even living in India, we are not able to grasp the holistic and the kind of grandeur of it while staying and living in the country, in this state itself. But how was it practically possible for him to do it? I think it might have obviously gone back to some rational reason, which is not really mentioned or not spoken about as much as I think it should be.
Yes.
Mhm. Sir,
Mhm.
also regional histories, they challenge national narratives, even the national narratives that are going on for now, currently going on.
Here, it's our misconception that saying national framework is different, regional
Mm,
thing is different.
mm, mm,
Both are the same.
mm.
What it is called nationalist framework.
Right.
How can we separate from regions? It is just like a human body, is it?
Yeah. Organs of the human body.
Yeah. Without our ear, how can you say about face?
Yeah.
So the
How can
experience,
we?
yeah,
Mm.
yeah, experience of the regions is the experience of the nation.
Right, sir. Mm.
Yeah.
And but for the current time, I think so. How can scholars like us who want to study oral history, who are very interested in these aspects, how can we kind of accommodate multiple memories or multiple ways of studying these traditions or these oral histories without compromising the historical rigor that is required for us to actually get published or in the academic forum? Because this is one problem which I face, which I think I think is very legitimate, that if I write a book and I publish it without being a historian, it is not going to be considered in the historical academic forum. It's going to be a piece of literature which I myself, as a sort of fed with all the narratives, a living sort of one of the masses, wrote and published because I felt that way. It won't be a historical piece, an academic piece that could be studied by historians across the globe, not looked at with as much authenticity. So how do you think we can merge? Because right now many approaches, public history, memory history, and like you said, oral history, these things are upcoming in the aspect of their newly coined terms. How do you think we can merge all these and still maintain that authenticity in the academic forum?
We need not merge, because oral traditions is entirely different from the knowledge called history. History has its own root. History is a discipline, and oral tradition is not a discipline. It's a tradition. While writing history, we can show the tradition, and you can interact with your experience. Ultimately, it needs interpretation, is it? The sources needs interpretation, is it? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I just
Yeah,
mute myself when in the middle to let you, so
yeah,
there
yeah,
should be
yeah.
no background
So
noise.
actually, so that we just cannot, you know, uh, we just cannot pull out oral traditions or oral history into the main course. It's not possible.
Hmm.
Because it's arithmetics is entirely different.
Right.
As you said, it is whatever it may be. It's a
Hmm.
scientific thing. It's a linear thing. You know,
Hmm.
it's called linear history. It's a writing about the progress.
Hmm.
Our linear thing, our historical tradition has the quality of the progress. It always
Right.
progressing.
Teleological.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. And it goes like Biblia, what you call on the direction of Bible. How can I explain you? It's called a linear kind of thing, writing history. But
Okay.
if you go to oral tradition, it is cyclical one, like our
Okay.
Puranas.
Hmm.
Today you are getting X hero, tomorrow you are getting Y hero.
Hmm. Different narratives, different perspectives at the
Different,
same time.
sometimes the same narratives will come after for 100 years.
Hmm.
You just cannot control them through your progressive lines
Hmm.
and progressive
It's
tradition, and
it's
in the linear way of understanding of
hmm.
history. So
It's
this
a
is the problem we are facing it. So that is why I am suggesting you to, take into the consideration of those traditions
hmm.
aside, and you stick to the discipline which you have been trained in another way.
Hmm.
And for the moment, you just compare to and give the possible interpretations. And it's
Hmm.
not a judgment.
Hmm.
Then others will respond to you. Then the discipline will grow as usually.
Yes, there has to be some of the other conversation through articles and debates and books
Yes,
so as to keep it going. Yes, sir. And
yes.
the information, definitely, like you said, it's vast amount of knowledge, vast amount of information, raw material through in different cultures. If you talk about Western Karnataka, this is a small space, small region in the whole Indian subcontinent. If we take the whole world, there are so many stories and so many, I would say, perspectives or narratives to it that you cannot really compile them and then say, okay, this is the truth and this is not true. You cannot do that dissection, I think. Yes. Right, sir. Shall we
Yeah,
continue?
yeah, please.
Yes. Uh, so, sir, what is in your understanding of over the period of your research and all? What is your understanding of caste or identity or a community? How would you differentiate or kind of explain it in a lame language, but yet make it very distinct uh, in our understanding?
You see, particularly after globalization, the sentiments of the people, it has been changed like anything. Indian sentiments, it has been replaced from the sentiments of communities, sentiments of caste. Everyone is competing. Earlier, Indians versus Indians. Now, communities versus communities. Everybody wants to have their own history. Some of them have profound history with profound archival background. Most of them, they do not have anything. So that, the search for new history through oral traditions, it is it is a it's a vogue today. It's a kind of marketing today. Everyone is interested to have their own history. See here, you cannot have the history of India. You cannot have history of mankind. You cannot history of the souls. Nothing. Everyone is pursuing for what you call you know history of segments. History of segments. It cannot be helpful to the nation. It cannot be helpful to the modern nation. It cannot be helpful to the uh, healthy situation in modern nation. That's one thing. And it doesn't mean that you should forget your roots. You must have your roots. You must have your sentiments. Must have oral traditions. But that should not detrimental to others. It should be, you should enjoy yourself in your house. You should enjoy yourself in your temple. You should enjoy yourself in your space of your community, not outside. Otherwise, conflict will arise definitely. It will destroy the brotherhood of the essence of the brotherhood of the Constitution. This is my point of view.
Yes, sir. And I think it is very important also that we practice it on a personal level, because personal history, it gives us a lot of confidence and understanding of ourselves, who we are, what do we like, what we don't like, what are our preferences. It helps us shape ourselves by looking at our own past and still working to grow and evolve in the current contemporary sphere. For example, I mean, it's out of this or out of this fear, but my grandfather, before he passed away, he made me cram. He was on his deathbed, but he wrote I think 12 generations genealogies of my family. And that is something very special to me because I was in fifth standard, and my dadi sa requested him because she said, only you remember, and our kids and they're very young. You should just write them, jot it down somewhere. So I remember, and I remember I memorized it then and there because I was very fond of history since the very since my very childhood. So yes, it is important, and then that kind of became an inspiring, or I would say a connecting link for me to study this oral tradition book again, which was Sodhayan, which was written by some Charan community back in 1600s. So I wrote the whole book, and I went back further 20 genealogies to trace it back, which is out of complete interest. I never really wanted to, brag about it in public, but it helped when you were communicating with your family members. And it was a nice conversation because, that is how you connect to your family members and your maternal family members, paternal family members. And that is very important, I think, for someone to know about themselves. This is just one aspect. There are so many other aspects than what that one can discover.
Until it hurts others.
Yes, definitely, sir. Hmm.
Because
Bec-
here in India, we are feeling those kind of things.
hmm.
The narratives of the dominant will always
Hmm.
hurt the narratives of the non-dominant communities.
Hmm.
Here we are finding conflicts.
Hmm.
So
In the public
it
sphere, we
hinders,
must be
yes,
equal.
it hinders development, everything.
Hmm.
So we must take a lot of cautions in this particular area.
Hmm.
Otherwise, it will be mislead.
Yes, sir. Definitely.
Yeah.
It sort of becomes a limitation in our interaction and our understanding of the fellow person
Yeah.
as well, whichever XYZ community they belong to, or
Yeah,
even
yeah,
if
yeah.
they belong to a different
You must take a
country.
lot of because they specify with the caste name.
Hmm.
So automatically, sometimes the dominant prejudices hurts others
Yeah.
also. We
Yeah.
can say I have heard from centuries,
Hmm.
but it is not my problem. No, if you abuse me owing to your traditional knowledge,
Hmm. That
it
doesn't make sense
doesn't
in
make
in the
sense. Yeah,
current scenario. Yes.
you have to be very careful while analyzing such kind of things.
Hmm. Right, sir.
This is
So
my
it
suggestion.
No, definitely it is very important, sir. And I think over the years of experience that you have developed, it is purely a wisdom. I mean, it's purely based on one's wisdom that and your wisdom that one can really interpret or see the other people through a naked eye, because it becomes very difficult for you when you go through these when you're sort of brought up maybe in a way in an environment which is not cosmopolitan. Yeah, I also had my own cultural shocks when I went to Delhi, because not just because I was, I was not interested in being cosmopolitan, but because I've never really traveled across my own city, hometown. But when I did go, and when you do explore, when you sort of develop that tolerance, and when you see people as just people, that helps. And your interest in knowing about their history and their interest about knowing your history, it develops over the period of time, and somehow it will always go beyond the scientific history that we study, because no one really knows that. It's only I, as much as I have experienced in this short years that I've lived, it is only good for the examination, for an examination point of view. But what we really talk about today in our house and with our family members, with our friends, is maybe the current news or the political news or international news, some important topics which are going on. But these stories coming from our grandfathers or our friends' grandfathers or something like that. So it helps in an overall understanding of the kid. Right, sir. So,
Okay.
are there any ending notes you would like to add to
So,
so as to?
in one or two sentences, I would like to conclude.
Sure, sir.
Because this is the new kind of writing in
Hmm.
the discipline of history. Here
Hmm.
we have a lot of problems while
Hmm.
analyzing, while
Hmm.
giving interpretations,
Hmm.
while framing those things in
Hmm.
the historical writings.
Hmm.
That is one thing.
Hmm.
And secondly, we must work and we must analyze such kind of things, not to hurt others, that we must take little care about it. These are the two things I need to say. And finally, anyway, it's a continuous process for understanding the things. We have to do research, we have to do a lot of readings, and we have to interact also.
Right, sir.
Yeah.
That is that these are words of wisdom that I will always remember. And I'm so glad that you could take out your time. And even though I know you were unwell for the last 2 days, you decided on taking this up and still doing the podcast. I'm really grateful to you. I hope we are able to do another podcast soon. And whichever future projects you're working on, are there any future projects you're working on, sir?
Yeah, I've taken oral traditions only right now. I've been
Okay,
working on that. Yeah. I've taken
right.
a project. It's in the halfway. I'm working on it.
Right, sir. So I'll be waiting for that publication, and as soon as it comes out, I will be very glad to do another podcast again and to learn as much as I can.
Pleasure, pleasure, Niharika. Thank you so
Right,
much.
and also I would love for you to translate your work in English so that more scholars like us are able to read it and understand.
Hmm. I'll do
Right,
it.
sir. Right.
Okay.
Thank you so much again,
Thank
and I
you.
hope you enjoyed talking to me.
Thank you.
All right, sir. Bye bye.
Bye.